Rexar.
But maybe with that sick new expansion, that sick new version of Rexar, we'll see some action from the Hunter again. But we're going to see some more action right now. We're going to go for the regame. Muzzy, of course, on the Paladin again. Neirea on the Rogue. Just a rematch. We'll see how this one goes. And Muzzy has a very similar opening to the one he had earlier.
I was going to say, this is what you like to see. There is backstab and one drop in Neirea's hand, which is what he had last time, and Muzzy has one drop war leader, which is what he had last time as well. So, all right, let's run this all back.
Yeah, we almost just remade the same game. Let's see how it goes this time.
It's almost as if we had a resume from replay function, Raven.
Almost. Maybe it's there now. Maybe it's there. But yeah, Neirea has got a little bit more of an aggressive opening with that deckhand that he didn't have, and he is going to open with it as well. Not planning, especially with Firefly in hand. You don't need to bounce these two guys. These two guys are there to battle against the early opening that Muzzy has and has available to him.
Yeah, and what this gives him is full flexibility to be able to deal with any one drop that gets played here from Muzzy. If he'd have gone just with the Firefly, it would have been difficult for him to develop 3 power on the following turn without using the backstab. So this way, with a 2-1 and a 1-1 already in play, if Murloc Tidecrawler comes down, easy kill. If Vilefin comes down, he can just dagger up and plow through that as well, and also just start pushing tempo if he wants to use the backstab on top of this. Basically, what I'm saying is this gives him the maximum options to deal with any of the expected 1 or coin 2 plays that would come out from Muzzy in this position. I really, really like this call from Neirea in this spot.
Yeah, I like it as well. I think that it's just one of those more flexible options you can have, and it happened with Quest Rogue very quickly, where these, you don't always play the quest on 1 straight away. You know, it has to be a little bit deeper than that to be the best options going forward.
And you see that Crazed Alp is a tech card thrown in here primarily to deal with shamans. It does have a little bit of utility against mage as well, where you can deal with Doomsayer, but this is one of the keys. When you have tech cards that generally whiff in your matchup, just find some way to get usage out of them, and that's what Muzzy sees straight away, just making a tempo play on the board here, demanding an answer from Neirea. And Neirea is just going to play the quest, load up his Firefly, and it looks like he's just going to push damage to face in this spot, which again is just disrespect to Paladin's ability to answer early minion stage.
Yeah, exactly. We can see the Consecrates in hand, but look at the mana. Muzzy's only got 2 mana to work with this turn, and this board is very, very tricky indeed. And again, even with the Firefly going down, there is the Flame Elemental that can be used to bounce later. Or one of the other minions, as you said, the odds on this board being dealt with are so slim, almost impossible actually, that you can just bounce whatever you want with a lot of confidence. I do think it is going to be important though that Neirea draws a bouncer at some point, right? It's going to be very difficult. If he just doesn't draw a bouncer, then he's just not able to do anything with any sort of productivity in terms of getting the quest actually done.
Yeah, and this Rockpool Hunter draw really crystallizes all the way back to Neirea's turn 1 play, why it was so important to develop maximum power on board on that turn, because if you don't have the ability to deal with any given 1 drop that your opponent plays, suddenly their snowball options are so huge. There's Rockpool Hunter, there's Coin War Leader, then the snowball really starts to come down. And what I really, really love to see here is that both players seem unaffected by the technical issues we've had so far. They're just taking their time, considering the plays, taking the best line every turn, and that just honestly goes to speak to the experience of both of these guys in this spot, right?
These guys just get it done time and time again at this point. And we saw the Swashbuckler go down there, and Neirea still doesn't have a bounce, but has more and more value going forward. So that's this is almost just watching a Zoo Rogue play out. It's like there's no bounces going on yet. The quest isn't even close to being done. But now it's all on Muzzy being able to just get rid of this board and capitalize on the lack of bounces. From what we can see, no preps. He knows 1 card is a Paladin card. No bounces, no vanish, no nothing to really work with going forward. Just his deckhander's spot removal more than anything.
Right.
Oh, never mind.
Right, now the plan starts to come together for Neirea. Now he really has to lay this out piece by piece, figure out how he's going to go through his quest activation this game. Still a long way short with just the Flame Elemental in hand and that 1 bouncer, second deckhand as well. Looks like the most likely target if he does want to try and rush out the quest. Yeah, looks like he is going to go deckhand.
Yeah. It's just flexible, right? He's already played, he will have played 2 now, so the quest counter will be up on 2. It's just not updated yet.
No, he played the first deckhand on turn 1.
Oh, sorry, it was turn 1. I'm being stupid.
Right. Yeah,
oh, of course. It's still flexible. It's Blessing of Might, though. It's just kind of funny because it just opens up more like zoo-style options, right?
Right.
Just, I mean, you know, no joking around. Neirea's already done enough damage of like 1/5/5 attack, which doesn't sound like, oh, he's on 20, 25. Well, that's actually one less sort of charge minion or one less minion you need to stick later on to be able to kill the paladin. Normally, as quest rogue, you don't really deal this kind of damage before the quest.
I like this line. Taking the trade up with the Blessing of Might, it's not really a card that he needs to pressure his opponent with, is in Neirea's position, right? Because once he gets his quest done, he has all the pressure he can possibly need. So just choosing to go resort back to Firefly as his minion of choice, of course. Deckhand looked like it had the advantageous situation, but with the first one being played before the quest, it really was just even Stevens with all of the minions on board. Firefly seemed like the most attractive proposition, or at least it was between that and the Swashbuckler.
I think Firefly is just solid because there's multiple ways you can go about it, right? You know, you can actually get more uses, you generate more tokens, which means more 5/5. Because something Neirea has to consider, again, as you've disproved my point, is that he is low on resources at this moment. Yes, you know, he can get, say he gets the quest done soon, and he gets the 5/5s out. If they're contended or dealt with, well, there's nothing else there. There's no value in hand, which I think is going to be a problem if Neirea doesn't manage his resources perfectly at this point. The Firefly is going to help a lot towards that.
All right, the Grimskull Chum has really perked up this turn for Muzzy because it looked like a great Consecrate board to come down here, but it would be a Consecrate pass kind of thing going on, right, if he wanted to do it. At least this way, he would get to develop some kind of presence, but even then, he's turning it down, just choosing to adapt to that one Grimscale Chum, which actually makes some sense considering he has a Redemption up in play as well right now and gives him the chance to really stick a minion to board and start snowballing War Leader on the following turn.
I also think as well, Neirea is obviously nowhere near getting the quest done.
Right.
This board's going to look like this for a while. You know, so as much as, yes, you could Consecrate and Chum this turn, you can probably just Consecrate this board next turn if it's still there, right? You know, it's not the biggest issue in the world because you know these are not going to magically turn into 5/5s next turn with what's available.
Yeah, it would be a different story if, say, Neirea had committed his bounce minion to the board, right, in this state. In that case, you just deal with the board state. But, you know, Neirea is too good a player to have put himself in that position in the first place. Muzzy understands, as you said, this board state is not going to beat him down. Just going to take his time and try and fight back on board, which just looks absolutely correct in this spot.
Yeah, very important draw. Although no bounces at the moment for Neirea, just having the minions available. Those 2 minions are actually 4 minions in Neirea's hand. It's going to help him get to that quest a little bit quicker in kind of an unusual way without, you know, trading bounces all the time. It's actually, I've just ended up with that amount of minions in general.
Right.
Does he discover the Redemption now? So that's Chum's just going to come back. Nothing too crazy, though.
Yeah, it's forced now to hold on to this final Firefly in hand, or at least the final Flame Elemental, whichever way he wants to go about it.
I mean, is Neirea going to win without the quest?
That seems highly unlikely, Raven.
It would be nuts, though. I mean, it's highly unlikely because of exactly this card and this board and what we were saying in the previous turn, right? The quest isn't getting done, so this board is consecratable no matter which way you slice it. And now with Tyrion as well, only one additional turn away from being played.
Okay.
But that's a bouncer. Is it going to be enough, though? Is there enough threats considering Tyrion is going to come down not next turn, but the turn after?
Tyrion is such a huge deal, especially if you have pressure on the rogue already, because if you've pressured the rogue sufficiently, they actually can't base tank the Divine Shield. So at that point, your Tyrion takes 3 5/5 attacks to deal with, absorbs 15 damage,
kills them,
and then gives you an Ashbringer, which swings 15 damage back the other way, making it in total a 30 health swing in the state of the game.
Yeah, and also not only absorbs the minions, but kills them, which it means there's no like, oh, well, I've killed Tyrion, then I'll go for the damage. Well, no, you won't. The minions are dead. They're long gone.
The problem here, though, is that with Neirea loading up the board, Muzzy has no way to deal with enough minions to even get to that Tyrion. Can only take 1 off the board, and actually, all that early minion pressure of just 1/2s and 2/1s just connecting with face, backed up by the early backstabs, actually got Neirea in a position where even a very slow quest was enough to threaten lethal against one of the best board-based decks in the game that could just never get a foothold.
Yeah, and also as well, like this is just an interesting point in terms of the quest rogue, being nerfed, right? Going forward, the nerf's actually going to be coming out early next week, so that's been confirmed now. So very early on, that's going to go out. So we'll, maybe that's the glimpse of the future. But before we get into this next game, as Neirea just took the win there, we can find out a little bit more about him, as this is his second championship performance.
2017 is going well so far.
And now Neirea, he's got the win.
Yep, Neirea is going to the top 8.
I got pretty good results, just consistent results.
This is back-to-back championship appearances for Neirea.
I'm kind of happy that I'm qualified second time, but at the same time, my end goal is always to win the World Championship, right? I will be excited if I qualify for Worlds, but right now I'm not excited. Other players should be worried because they should not expect mistakes from me.
Neirea, cool, calm, and collected. Just looks like it's another day at the office.
I would say until I get the World Championship title, I wouldn't be satisfied. But even after then, I'll probably find some other goals. Maybe not. I'll find out if I win.
Cool, calm, and collected is Neirea, and we can see that resume pretty impressive. Although he didn't have the the best last year in the world, he's definitely rocking it this year.
Yeah, and he has the chance to do some incredible things here, either qualifying for his second World Championship or even visiting each of the seasonal championships throughout this year, which would perhaps just be even more incredible as you see his portrait back on our Hall of Champions in the back there. Just behind our fabulous crowd.
Like, we can see that from where we're sat, guys. There's all the sweet merchandise you can pick up as well. I need to head over there after this, actually.
Bear back. You hold it down for like 10 minutes.
No, I wanted to go first. Okay. But yeah, those portraits at the back, they're like along the back wall of the venue, and they look amazing, and I just wish there was a caster portrait section. Like, that would be pretty sweet.
I think the interesting thing on that bio about Neirea that we didn't really address is that he practiced with RDU for this event. And now we've spoken to Neirea a lot over the past few months because he keeps popping up and winning games of Hearthstone, and he's always said, I don't really play as much as the other pros. I theorycraft a lot, I watch a lot of streams, I talk to a lot of my friends and fellow pros about different matchups and strategies, but I'm not a serious multi-hour-a-day grinder like some of these other players are. Well, RDU actually talked him into a very grindy schedule coming into this. So he's actually a little bit in foreign territory when it comes to preparation for this tournament, but so far seems to be paying off because although you don't see it reflected on screen right now, he is in fact 1-0 up.
He is winning. He is 1-0 up. He did get the win with the quest rogue. As we move on to Neirea going for the Jade Druid, and Muzzy sticking with the paladin for now. And this Jade Druid, I would say, is one of the more standard versions. There's nothing too funky in this list. It's pretty much just what you will have seen a couple of times on ladder, I imagine, and often it is just going to get the job done. But the Murloc Paladin deck, I feel, has a pretty good matchup here. I think it can actually just get the job done, because if you can go wide enough, early enough, there's just no multi-target removal for Druid, right? It's always been one of the problems. And against, Pirate Warrior and things like that, Jade Druid's been performing very well. But it's mainly because they can put up the taunts and gain enough armor to stabilize, but that's not really going to cut it as much versus the Paladin.
Yeah, and it's not even just the fact that their AoE isn't effective enough. Their single target spot removal isn't really effective enough either. Like if a Paladin has a 1-drop coin 1-drop start against them, you've already fallen behind in terms of keeping the board clear.
Yeah.
You can only Wrath 1, you can only Hero Power 1 on turn 2. So if that happens, they've already got a target to land Rockpool Hunter. Then they've already got a target to land War Leader on the following turn. Then the Gentle Megasaur can come down.
Snowball time.
If you can't stop that curve from happening, as you mentioned, the snowball is just going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger until it careers out of control.
Yeah, and now this swipe is going to be pretty juicy to stop, or at least, stem the flow a little bit here, just to reduce his minions down. The Kodo? Give some value there for the Hydrologist, but suddenly life feels more manageable for Neirea, I feel, after that swipe.
It's a really important Kodo, though, because it gives him a solid turn 4, which otherwise he would just be playing a 5-4, right? Just dropping just a naked Megasaur on the board. So at least this way, he has Hydrologist into Rockpool Hunter, and he yet again gives himself the position where he can potentially go Megasaur next turn, or go for the Finger line and then try and get the big buff after the Finger comes down, which looks very, very promising. because Neirea hasn't had a quick Jade start.
Yeah.
So the minions will be around on board for the Finja to be able to deal with.
Yeah, the newest Jade will be a 3/3 when summoned, and you see the respect that Druid has to give decks like this. You know, Feral Rage as a one-of, just used as the aggressive tool to just remove the board again. And then, you know, Neirea's pretty much done after this. He just drops higher and crosses fingers, basically, at that point. You just have double Nourish. So it means that Neirea won't run into the issue Jade Druid often does, where it kind of burns out of cards around turn 6 and 7. If he doesn't have card draw, but this Finja could cause dramatic problems, especially as you said, there is, you know, Chum, Finja, Megasoul with Redemption. There's actually just Spite Ridge after Finja or pre-Finja. There's a lot of options going on here, and it looks like while a minion has stealth, it cannot taunt. Thank you, Innkeeper. We still have that lesson to learn sometimes.
Oh, the War Leader pool is so huge, and so much removal has been used by Neirea here, trying to prevent the big snowball minions landing, keeping the board full of, removed of Murlocs, using Feral Rage, using Wrath, using everything available to him, that now that War Leader is just stuck behind a huge taunt. Neirea has no way to deal with it.
Yeah, it's very, very scary. Neirea just about can deal with this, like, Finja, just. If the Earthen Scales are going to go onto the Aya, and then with Hero Power as well, but I think you have to, because I don't know what Nourish is going to do. You know, if you what are you drawing into that makes this turn any better?
Right, well, he could Nourish for his one remaining Wrath, right? So he'd have like a 1 in 20, a 1 in 19, 1 in 18 to hit that Wrath. Even if that happened, best case scenario, he'd still be behind on board.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Just get this done now. You do get a 4/4 Jade. The Jade Spirit behind this actually evens up the board to a large extent.
Oh my, that is a huge draw.
Okay, Admirable, calm down.
In the words of Nathan, that's undesirable Zamora.
Yeah, or Nate, as I like to call him.
Nate Dowell.
You know, this draw does so many things. One, it allows the Chum to buff the Vile Thing, which is great. You want bigger minions. Then it changes the hero power, so going forward, this War Leader's getting more and more value, and it's just an additional minion for Megasoul this turn. Like, that one draw just ticked so many boxes for Muzzy, it's kind of unreal.
+1/+1. I think deciding between that and Poison in that spot, if you could find more value trades on this turn, then Poison might have been more appealing, because just small irritating minions hanging around on the board as Murlocs against Jade Druid.
I don't see any small minions there, Sol.
Right, but I mean, you know, you can get 5/6 into 5/5, but then there's like no good value trade into the 4/4 if you do it that way. The value trades that you are finding are leaving you exposed to swipe anyway, but Poison sticking to the board against Druid can actually be very, very powerful in the matchup a lot of times, but the breakpoints and the trades just didn't really line up that way, so +1/+1, definitely good enough in this spot.
Yeah, I also think there's only a slight worry about the Primordial Drake potentially coming down this turn, because then that, you know, the damage can actually make the poison a lot less effective.
Absolutely.
And bear in mind, Neirea sat on 2 cards for most of this game. Those could very well be Drakes, or at least one of them could be a Drake.
This is where Muzzy's hand starts to run dry, though. He has built a very oppressive board that's just threatening to be game-ending here. And in fact, I think, Neirea has realized after going through the motions into the redemption of the 2/6 that he was just dead on board in that position. So Muzzy very quickly able to square up the series in a very, very convincing fashion. But we talked about how favored that matchup is overall. Paladin just has everything that it needs in that matchup. It has the quick blowout start potential, and then it has fallbacks as well. It has the Finja fallback. It has the Tarim fallback. So an expected win for Muzzy.
Yeah, I think also he had the sick burn from hand of double Consecrate just to get him for 4 if you really needed to just push it over the edge. But the Murlocs pretty much ran away with the game there for Muzzy. And Muzzy, we talked a lot about Neirea, but Muzzy has been performing exceptionally well. He went 10-0 in playoffs and played absolutely phenomenally. So you can check out a little bit more about him right now.
When I first was called a choke artist, it was pretty annoying.
We know how good a player he is. The only thing holding Muzzy back historically has been Muzzy. Muzzy has a bit of a reputation as a choke artist.
It affected me a bit, I would say. It made me feel bad about how others saw my image as a player.
He's a very good player. He does tend to get nervous a lot, and when the spotlight is on him, he chokes at times.
I definitely wanted to prove to other people that I wasn't a choke artist, that I don't crumble underneath the pressure that other people believed me to do, and that showed in the final as I ended up crushing everyone.
Muzzy with a 3-0 sweep.
The first player from America's Spring to go to Shanghai, China.
So being able to get that off my back in qualifying and getting first place and taking a jab back at Sottle really felt good.
All I can say is, did I choke that time, Sottle?
Deserved. No, I take it. I apologize straight away, and I solemnly swear I will never dare to refer to you as a choke artist again. Well done.
I think the choke artist thing's gone already. I mean, I have been one of the best players in the game for a very long time.
Yes, Sol. God. I'm with Muzzy on this.
Do you know what? I'm just pleased that finally, after like 4 video packages, they finally got the moment where Frodan said it as well, all right? It wasn't just me.
Wow, just trying to shift the blame around. But you can't argue what he said as well is that, you know, he had those questions raised of him, I would say, and he blew them just out of the park, basically. His performance, not only did he go 10-0 in the playoffs, he went 10-0 playing some of the best Hearthstone I've ever seen be played.
Yeah, he actually ran into some matchups where he was probably 40% favored lineup-wise and just blew it out just by playing amazing. And that's the one thing that has never been in doubt. You heard that being said through that package as well. Yeah. Muzzy has, for a matter of years, been a top 3 player in the world, a top 5 player in the world, top everything. Pick a number, Muzzy's in it, right? Like, that's how good this guy is. It's just, it was weird to see a guy who was clearly that incredible at the game that wasn't putting up the results. Yeah. Now he is. Now the questions are answered. Now he's shut me up and he's proved his point, and he's clearly very, very happy about it.
Muzzy, my favorite player now. Just sticking one to Sol, but we are going to be moving into game number 3. It's all even now, and Muzzy going on this mage versus Neirea's quest warrior, and this mage from Muzzy. I played a lot of mage in this expansion, this rotation. But this mage kind of does a bit of everything. It has aspects of the Gunter mage, so you can see the Medivh. You know, that's one of the key aspects. It runs Mana Worms, Arcanologist, nothing too crazy. But then we see the Antonidas as well, and the other half of the deck is kind of Freeze Mage with 1 Nova, one Doomsay. Oh, sorry, there's 0 Nova. No, 1 Nova, 1 Doomsay. That was it. I was sure that was right. So there's like, it's almost just split between Freeze Mage and Gunter Mage, and I can't wait to see how it performs, because I feel like a lot of these matchups are very, very close in the fact that an Antonidas and a Medivh might be a little bit too heavy.
Yeah, well, you see actually one of the key cards in the matchup just got drawn by Neirea. He has the Dirty Rats in his deck, which is super powerful in this matchup. You see it, of course, not being played on turn 2 in this matchup. He wants to hold it, he wants to time it, he wants to try and hit one of those key power minions, Alexstrasza, Medivh, and Archmage Antonidas, and then deal with it immediately to reduce value, and then you get into the position where you buy yourself a ton of extra time, or even just the potential to completely outlast the resources of Muzzy's deck. The key thing that you'll notice there is that there are 3 power minions in this deck for Muzzy. Normally there is only 2. You play 2 of the 3 in most builds of this mage deck, be it anywhere on the spectrum from Freeze Mage to Discover Mage. But in this position, there are 3 different threats that need dealing with, and only 2 Dirty Rats to be able to do that.
Yeah, this is looking pretty crazy there. Just got a bit of a tech issue, but we're looking okay. We can still see what's going on. And the Valet there, not a terrible pickup, especially with Ping as well. He's going to be able to clear up this Bloodhoof pretty cleanly, actually.
Excuse me, you are on fire.
Yeah, just going double Valet. Early tempo is important here. You do need to get some chip damage through as the mage in this position most of the time. It's rare that you win from a position where Warrior is just able to armor up, stabilize at 30, and then start piling armor up on top of that. You really do need to be forcing through the chip damage, because that plays around the eventuality best chance of staying alive for one turn that way, but Curator is the play that actually gives you some kind of opportunity to win the game over the next 3 or 4 turns, so I like this.
Yeah, 100%. You need to do something here. Oh, Glyph could just end the game.
It doesn't matter.
Right
Glyph is just auto-lethal.
Yep. So we are back now, and in case you actually left us there, we might have just gone off just for a little bit, but we are still in this game. The game is being played out, so the players have not been affected by some of the technical issues we've been experiencing. But now Muzzy looks like he's on the verge of going ahead in this series, in this mage versus warrior matchup.
Yeah, Frostbolt being used now will buff to 6, and then the ping can remove the Curator off the board to allow to go to face. So he just had auto-lethal import in hand, even without that Primordial Glyph coming down. Muzzy takes a very hard-fought game, which I'm sure you guys at home share my sentiment that I wish we got to see a bit more of. We did the best we could, and it's Muzzy that's going up to a 2-1 lead in a very, very important series between two of Hearthstone's very, very best.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do after this series or later on. I will speak to the players and ask for key points in that match, and I will let you guys know. Just because, I'm interested, you guys are interested as well, so I'm sure, we will find out, what were the key turning points. Obviously, there was the Dirty Rat that we did see that actually hit the Thalnos and not the other 2 minions in hand, which were Antinidus and Medivh.
Yeah, obviously we did miss a huge chunk of that match in the mid-game, but it would be tough to find a more defining point, even just through guesswork, when the game was very clearly becoming defined about that Dirty Rat, right? And I do feel for Neirea in this spot, because he actually had a very good read. His timing was on point. 2 out of 3 times he gets rewarded for the play he was going to make, right?
Yeah. So just that one time wasn't enough, and it looks like the players are just going to be getting ready to go into game number 4. But Muzzy is at 2-1 up, one more game, and he is making just yet another step forward in this breakout performance here for him. And I just feel like, this would technically be like 11-0 in his HCT spring run. This could actually, Muzzy's got the chance to just go undefeated in the spring season, which would be frankly ludicrous, but would be a joy to see. The next game, as we can see here, is Muzzy on his Evolved Shaman, and Neirea going for the Taunt Warrior, going to try and get a win here.
Neirea holding Quest, which against a lot of aggro decks isn't really the go-to plan. You just try and exhaust their early board development. The thing that makes Evolved Shaman so resilient is that even if it doesn't get a very, very aggressive start, it can actually play a value game with a lot of decks as well. So as Quest Warrior, if you do go ahead and just throw away Fireflume's Heart in this matchup, then your opponent, if they're an experienced player, can actually react to that position and recognize how much time they have then in the matchup. And they can just hold on for big value plays with their Stonehill Defenders, get max value out of their Flame Tongues, really hold on to that Doppelgangster Evolve until the point where they force Brawls out of the hand, because there's no clock on the Shaman coming back the other way in that position.
Yeah, what I will say as well, we've not seen Muzzy's Shaman yet. Double Sea Giant in this list. So a lot of people have been cutting for 1 Sea Giant, but Muzzy's made a double cut, one on Devolve, and the other one is on the Bloodlust as well. So I personally, we were talking a lot about this actually yesterday and today. I dislike a Bloodlust cut in this list. I think there are other cards that could drop. Stonehill is #1 on my priority to cut, but I do like the Devolve cut.
That's a better route, although the Evolve is in hand for Muzzy right now. If he wants to go for just pure early game.
But the Flame Tongue might change this now.
Yeah, the Flame Tongue is actually really juicy.
Yeah, I think the Flame Tongue's too good.
After the Flame Tongue hits, Flame Tongue isn't really a minion you want to evolve in a lot of positions. And it's not like you have to snap evolve this one Doppelgangster dude that you have on board, because you have the second wombo combo ready to go in hand for turn 5 anyway.
Which is very important. Doing this turn 5, as you just said, versus turn 6 is a big difference. But wow, that Flame Tongue was huge. And in this position as Muzzy, I've been in the position a few times with this kind of boss. Having Jade Lightning just available is huge. damage. That card is insane, whether it's extra burst damage to face or just easily removing a minion to guard your board. But the second Flame Tongue just adds so much additional damage.
I mean, I just see this lining up. Like, it's time to get him. If the Brawl comes out here, you have the immediate reload on the following
And
turn.
then Jade Lightning.
With Doppelgangster Evolve, and there, Jade Lightning and a Flame Tongue for follow-up. This is just looking so promising for Muzzy in this position. It could be looking like a quick win at this point in a matchup that he's not necessarily hugely favored in.
Especially because Neirea is playing double Brawl as well.
Yeah.
So he's playing the double Brawl Quest Warrior list, which is, obviously better against Shaman than one Brawl. And he's just not got it yet. And 16 health, the Ali Armor Smith is going to get some work done. Or is it really? I mean, you can actually use Jade Lightning this if he wants with the trade, so
For
it only
5
gains
as
2.
well, yeah.
So you can just trade. I mean, does it make much difference?
In this exact position, no.
Yeah, because you want the Doppelgangster alive.
You're trading to the flanks of the Flame Tongue
Yeah,
token
yeah,
anyway, so you're always doing 3 regardless, so the spell damage curve isn't relevant.
But it's just this Jade Lightning stops 2 armor being gained, generates an additional minion. It just means like more and more there's just refill. But
Muzzy's definitely giving a nod to some of the auxiliary board players. I don't think he's too scared of Brawl coming out in this position, because as I mentioned, if Brawl comes down, you have Doppelgangster Evolve as a reload, you're feeling fine.
Cool, right?
But we could have seen him on the previous turn go much harder with the second Flame Tongue hitting the board, potentially. But yeah, then you open yourself up to Whirlwind, Sleep with the Fishes, Ghoul, Sleep with the Fishes. And if you see the way this game has developed from Neirea's side, he hasn't really been dropping taunts on curve, right? So then at that point, if you're in Muzzy's position trying to get a read on the hand, you're saying, okay, it might be Whirlwind effects, it might be Executes, it might be Sleep with the Fishes. I don't want to run too hard into one of those board players at this point.
And the Sleep with the Fishes combos does wreck Shaman, actually. Because it does just kill everything you play, minus evolved Doppelgangsters, which is what's Brawl for. Public Defender going to come out now just to soak up as much damage as possible, but suddenly with the Maelstrom as well. And being able to trade away patches with the extra damage is important, so you can actually make space on the board for the second Flame Tongue if you want. Sol's just waving his pen around to count the numbers on the board. What is your conclusion, Master Sol?
So the Maelstrom doesn't get max value hitting the 1/1 here, but you have to trade the 3/1 patches out to get max value out of the Flame Tongue. So now if you Maelstrom and you drop the second Flame Tongue, you can get a clean trade for 5 into the remainder of the 0/7, and then you would be pushing, what, for only 4 more damage, 5 more damage at that point? 7 more damage at that point. I think he's just a little bit short.
Is 7 damage just fine, though?
I mean,
you know what I mean?
I said, how scared of removal does Muzzy really have to be in this position when he does have that guaranteed reload to just flip the switch whenever he wants to?
Yeah, I kind of like this. There's still Bloodlust in the deck. He can just Doppelgangster Evolve, but he's had the option to all game pretty much at this point. And I like pushing this damage. You might even get a charge. Oh no, there's no space.
Yeah, that's the actual awkward thing, because you were trading into a Public Defender, there was no way you could get multiple damage out of the Flame Tongues, which would have been lethal, and there's no way that you could have made room for a Stone Tusk Ball, which would have been, or Stone Tusk Ball or Patches, which would have been.
Battle Rage into Whirlwind. That doesn't look like a whirlwind, but that does look like game as Muzzy takes his series over Neirea, and his amazing run in the spring season is continuing at an alarming rate.
It's a great point. I mean, we had a rocky road trying to bring you this victory, but Muzzy has had the smoothest of surfaces carrying him through to this so far. That is now an 11-0 record for Muzzy since